Greetings, George, and listeners that have already tuned in. Welcome.
Greetings, gentlemen. How are you?
Very well, George. Good to see you. Welcome back. It's been a week since we last got together and held a session. So I'm
Yes, we were just reminding ourselves that you were at sunny Sun City.
That's correct. We attended the annual Institute of People Management convention. This was the 68th, believe it or not.
Okay.
So what a conference, what a convention. Wow.
All right.
That was beautiful. The one word I took with me from the convention is AI. AI is not happening tomorrow. It's here already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's here already, and good and bad, but it's here already.
It's here already, and what the speaker after speaker was sharing was pleasing to hear that there are people who are already engaging with it out there, and they're not looking at it as something that we are still waiting to come and we are avoiding. So I was quite happily surprised, to be honest.
Okay. Now it's here already, and improving lives, and obviously creating havoc on the other side. But as is with everything in life, you have to have a balance.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially as it relates to people management. I mean, when the HR fraternity itself was in agreement that we can choose to look on the negative side and be left behind, or we can choose to look on the positive side and do something about it.
Well, change is the only constant. I see
Yeah.
I see Rapula has joined the room, and Franz.
Yeah, Francis,
Devesh.
Mr. Ramutla, welcome. Divesh, welcome. Rapula was there. We just lost him. There he is. He is back. So it looks like we are almost all here. So greetings, colleagues. Welcome to our regular Tuesday digital online streaming mastery show. And this is unit number 38, conduct number 33, which means 2 more to go. Then we'll hit the apex of our series, the 40th. 2 more weeks, then we are there.
Yeah, okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. Welcome to Commercial Radio Worldwide, the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle called the idea. We inform, entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. My name is Sam Zima, and I'm joined by George Mutenda Zamera, Franz Ramutla, Divesh Mutilal, Rabula Mulivani. I see, Rabula, you are still on the public platform. I hope to see you moving over to the virtual studio side. But let me hand over to you, colleagues, to recap or recollect. Last time when we were here, we were dealing with unit number 37, conduct number 32, which was about self-leadership and being in control. I see this as a continuation of that topic because I would want to believe that time management is one of the many elements of self-leadership. Over to you to greet our listeners and set the scene for us. Anyone ready?
Okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show. Thank you very much for joining us. Today one is a very special program that is very special to me. The issue of time management makes or breaks people, especially those who aspire to be leaders. If your time management is not in spec, you are going to struggle to lead people properly. So, yeah, thank you very much. My name is George Mutenda Zamera. I'm the founder and CEO at Vula Law Consulting. I'm an executive and leadership coach, an author, an inspirational speaker, and today I am a podcast host. Very interesting subject that we'll be tackling today. We will talk briefly about what we spoke about last time, but I'll give my colleagues the opportunity to introduce themselves, and so we kick off. Thank you very much.
Welcome, George. We're looking forward to your input. Indeed, it is a very innocent topic, but extremely determinant in terms of the success of us on our daily basis, from whatever level you're operating from. Time is one asset you don't have a luxury to waste. Thank you so much. Looking forward to hear your inputs. Let me hand over to Ndate Ramutla. Franz Ramutla, over to you. Maguluf.
Thank you very much, Prasam. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening, listeners. Indeed, time is a very important commodity. It happens within different contexts. Tonight, I'm going to share with you time management within the context of running a funeral session.
Wow.
But as I was preparing for tonight, we are talking about time management, but exactly what is time? And so we are informed that time is familiar to everyone, yet it's hard to define and understand. It is defined from the context of science, philosophy, religion, and the arts, who have different definition of time. But the system of measuring it is relatively consistent. So I want to share with you exactly what is time from the physicist point of view. They define it as the progression of events from the past to the present into the future. Basically, if a system is unchanging, it is timeless. So yeah, time can be considered to be the fourth dimension of reality, used to describe events in three-dimensional space. It is not something we can see, touch, or taste, but we can measure its passage. Indeed, tonight we are here to manage this commodity called time. So I'm looking forward to share with you how do we manage time within the context of a funeral progression. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the show.
As always, Makolo, you bring in practical examples that everyone can relate to. Imagine being late for a funeral and you are the person that is supposed to conduct the procession.
Yes, indeed.
Beautiful. I look forward to learn from you from that perspective, Ndate Ramutla. Thank you so much and welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thanks.
Great stuff. Ndate Rabula.
I'm trying to recover where I am because I've been moving from 8 pillar to post. As usually, I got the wrong linkage. Then I went to the public. I was trying to look for a correct linkage, so I lost time. So maybe that's why Ram Mutla is going to teach me about time management today. And I'm asking myself why choose the funeral?
Because that's the one certainty in life.
Yeah, we all knows about that. Instead, there's a saying which says, until it happens to you, don't know the pain of it. So some asking why funeral? Why not waiting? Because always the groom and the groom, they're always late. They can't manage time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. Maybe something new which you're gonna learn from him.
Yeah.
Maybe time says I'm delayed, or maybe it's delayed to be dead. So that's why he's talking of time management.
Well, George, you say because that is absolute certainty. So everyone, if will know when is his time, he will be ready. We'll keep it at
There's
that.
no way it won't happen to me. No, no.
Maybe Ram will tell us the appropriate time for funerals.
Let's leave it to France to take us along.
That's why I'm saying I'm leaving for time being. I'll leave it aside. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Divesh?
Evening, Sam, and evening, colleagues, and a very good evening to the listeners. My name is Divesh Motilal, a resident DJ at Kometsa, a qualified engineer by profession, but a budding technologist, and I consider myself to be somewhat of a mentor to various areas where I'm an expert. Today's topic, indeed, very interesting, may seem very simple. And then, in relation to France's analogy or area of focus, indeed, time waits for no man, and eventually the time has to run out. But also, in terms of the perception that people have of time, you'd be used to, in essence, that your watch dictates to you when it's day and night, and you can count down the minutes and the hours, and you have deadlines, and you can look out the window and you'll have some sense of what time it is. But it's interesting that in other places of the world, for example, in Alaska, a place called Barrow, where in that town you'll have 65 days of continuous daylight during their summer period. So they don't have a night. You can't look outside and determine whether it's day or night because they have 24 hours of sunlight. And likewise, during the winter periods, they have 60 days. That's 2 months when there's no sunlight at all. It's just darkness. So for them, the essence and the meaning of time, it's very different. And what becomes even more important is how do you manage yourself? So it's not the minutes and the hours, which is necessarily what you're going to use to, plan your day and your tasks. You're going to have some other systems in place for that. Thank you, and I'm looking forward for the discussions today.
Wow. 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 What a diversity of perspectives. I come from the perspective that says time is a measurement unit. It's you can use that thing called time to determine whether you are completing your task in a set time frame, or you are late in completing them, and therefore it doesn't matter. The value is no longer relevant, is no longer needed because you've done it very well to the fullest, but at the wrong time, at the late time when we no longer need it. So, let's allow Ndadera Mudla to take it forward from where we are and help us define using his example that he is wanting to share with you, share the understanding of time with us, and then each one of us can take it from different perspectives that we are having, and let's see if we can have a convergence of ideas around this concept called time. Dadramul.
Thank you very much, Prasem. In my preparation, before I can take you into the perspective I've just outlined, I got to understand the definition of time management, because tonight we are here about time management. And I agree with my presentation is in line with this. So it says time management is the process of planning, organizing, prioritizing tasks, and is to make best use of your time. So it involves setting goals, creating schedules, and making conscious choices about how to allocate your time, and responsibilities. Effective time management to accomplish more in
Sure.
less time.
Dr. Muta,
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
we are struggling to hear you. We are struggling to hear you. Your connection
Oh,
is
sorry about
letting
that.
you.
Oh, I just said that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Carry on, Dr. Muta. Hopefully it holds on.
I said that my presentation will be informed by the definition of time management, which is the process of planning, organizing, and prioritizing tasks and activities to make the best use of your time. It involves setting goals, creating schedules, and making conscious choices about how to allocate your time to various tasks and responsibilities. And effective time management helps you accomplish more in less time while reducing stress and improving your overall quality of life. Recently, we had the passing on of our sister in the Ramutla family. And as one of the seniors, whether you like it or not, immediately the person passes on, you are one of the first people to be called to the house where the person has passed on. So I was called in there. We started mourning our sister, but then we had to deal with time now. The first challenge of time management is when we have to call the mortuary. And obviously, culturally, the mortuary has to come within a certain time frame. A person cannot lie in the house from morning to the afternoon. So this is where we came into contact with the issue of time. Fortunately, then the mortuary came within an hour, and our sister was taken away. Now, since the part of the definition of time management is planning, then we had to plan. The first thing we had to plan was managing the people that will be coming in the house and mourning with us. And therefore, we started with our planning. So the planning included, number one, when people come in the house, what is it? How are you going to accommodate them in the space that we have? Number one. Number two, when people come, traditionally they must have tea or something to drink. So that planning of time and the activities is going to lead us into what financial resources do we need to care for those people. So number two, we had to plan for memorial service. So we all know that the memorial service is informed by the program. So in the program, it is still part of planning. You are planning informed by the time. So we're saying we are going to have our memorial service from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So already we are planning our time. So how are we going to manage our time? We have to organize people who will be coming to speak. So we have 3 hours. Now, our sister has got friends, there are family members, there are people from the church. From the church, there are different stakeholders. And then from those different stakeholders, individuals must talk. So it leads us to within 3 hours that we have, how many people and choirs must we accommodate? So we're coming from a church with many stakeholders. So we were confronted with the challenge of trying to allocate as many speakers as we had. I was given the responsibility of appointing the program director. I was fascinated by the fact that the program director I appointed started to plan around the time we have and how many speakers are we going to have. I was surprised, colleagues, when he says we are going to have 36 speakers within 3 hours. And then he allocates 5 minutes for each speaker. And he allocates some few minutes, about 3 minutes, for the choir to usher in each and every speaker that comes. To cut the story short, the program director for that night did it very well. The people that were lined up, all of them spoke. The choirs that were lined up, they all sang. So I told him that the key success factor of the program director is to allocate time and manage that time. And I told him he did very well. So yeah, we were able to implement the components of time management, which is planning, organizing, and then prioritization was integral.
Wonderful. I think we've got, yeah, we're losing you there.
The priest or the minister.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying you cannot, or you don't hear me. So, okay, I'll continue as the program continues. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, but we got it. We got it. And I think the context that you use is great. Time as a scarce resource, therefore requiring you to be very particular in terms of allocating it. But then once you allocated it, make sure that you manage it so that things are done according to that plan. Beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
So that is how effectively you use time as a resource, in this case for a particular event, but it could be time for other things. Thank you so much. Divesh, you wanted to come in there?
Yes, Sam. I obviously I do look at the example that Francis brought through and a lot of relevant and valuable points. But in reference to our digital online streaming, I wanted to emphasize that a lot of the similarities in terms of the example that France has put forward do also apply to the digital online streaming section. And it applies at various different perspectives. Even though we've said that time management, a lot of people would think is a simple thing. But like all our shows, we start off with the simple sounding concept or a topic. And then when we start to unpack it, we realize that there's a lot of dimensions to it. Likewise, it is the dimensions there for time management. And the first dimension I would reference is that when we're doing our shows, as we've outlined the various elements of planning a show, starting from the point of selecting your type of show you want to put together, who the platform would be, what kind of technologies you might be using in there, who your guest is going to be, etc. That is your starting block, which requires you to have good time management, to set targets for yourself, to be able to time each activity to make sure that it concludes at the time that you had planned it. And even when you're running the show itself, the show has a time limit to it, and you have planning which has to abide within that allocated time that you've got for the show. So there's various elements where you've got this skill of time management which comes into play, and especially in the live environment. You got to get your timing right. You got to get all the most pertinent points that you want to share with your audience. You want to get the best value for your guest. All that is hinging on how you manage your time and the quality of your time management, Sam?
Indeed, especially yes, in streaming platforms, in radios, the only asset you have there that we don't argue about is time, and you are given what the so-called time slot, and within that time slot, you are asked to start and end your show. And you almost start with the end in time, which is in mind, which is the allocated time. You negotiate your way backward, and then you contract. And once you've contracted, you start running the show. That's the execution of bargained time. And something that you touched on, and also Franz touched on, in the process of implementation, you manage time, you manage and adjust as you move along. And I think that is where the challenge comes in. What do you do when you realize that at this pace, we are not going to fit everything in this time allocated? And that is really the real challenge to time management. In projects as well, if it's a project, you know exactly the bargain time, and you need to be always prioritizing as you go along. So it's amazing how time applies to all spheres of our lives, and the level of consciousness is what we are trying to bring up here. That things don't just happen. You have to prioritize, you have to plan, you have to manage based on what you bargained for. We will come to space. Thanks for bringing this particular example that is very relevant to this particular work, because once you are in the show, the producers might have very little opportunity to guide you. You have to be conscious of time. George, I think you and Divesh, you have had a situation where you are given time slot and you make use of that time slot to the fullest, and you can mess it up by being too lenient and not directing. You can use it very effectively by being very good at saving time to a point that you have extra time left to do even more than you have planned to do.
Yeah, you're right there, Sam. And I'm sure as our listeners have noticed that these units are interlinked. The last unit we talked about was self-leadership and being in control. And that talks about intentionally influencing your thoughts, behaviors, to achieve your personal and professional goals. And the way to achieve your personal professional goals, one of them is to be able to, I put it in quotes, to manage time. My mentor, Bob Proctor, always used to say, no one manages time. The beggar in the street, the baby was 7 months old, the CEO of a company, the elephant in the bush, the buffalo, all of us have 24 hours. What you manage are the activities within the time that everybody has. So the magic is, once you understand that, then you understand that it's the activities that I must manage within the time that everybody has, which is 24 hours, given, done. And I think that's important, because when we talked about self-leadership, one of the items we talked about was self-awareness. We talked about goal setting, which we have it here, self-motivation. And self-awareness talks to your understanding of how well you manage your time. Later on, I'll be talking about, in coaching, helping people to create a log where you track your use, your activities over, say, a 10, 12-day period. to determine where you're spending more time and where your time wasters are. And then deliberately and consciously choosing then to focus on certain areas and recreating your day or week or month based on what's coming out from that. So you move away from how you feel about certain things to determining them, shall we use the word scientifically in quotes, and then use that as a platform to then create the efficiency and the productivity that you seek, because time management is all about efficiency and productivity. That's what we are seeking. And so the better you do it, the more effective you are, the more productive you will be, because you're not wasting time on things that don't matter. Yeah.
So George, the ratio of output over input is not telling much unless you match it against the time period within which that particular output was achieved by consuming those input.
Yes, absolutely. But understanding yourself is the best. So, as an example, you, Sam, are a kind of, shall we use the word, night person.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm the opposite. I'm the morning person. And so if you are going to be creative, to say to write a book, whatever, you are going to consciously pick your peak time. So for you, it would be 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight. That's when your creativity is at its peak. I would flip it and say at 4:35 in the morning, that's when I'm at my peak. But understanding that then gets you to be more efficient and more productive. Because now, for most people, they'll get into the office at 8 in the morning and are on emails. But actually, you might find that your brain is at its peak in the morning. So you don't even attend to emails. You're now at your creativity, you're reflecting, you're creating. In the afternoon, when you're tired, you go back to the emails and you delete emails, you reply, are you coming to the braai and all those things. But it's managing that to be very efficient and and productive.
This is, George, what they call discovering your productivity rhythm.
Aha.
At what time of the day are you more productive? And then knowing that, then tactically then make sure that you use those high level of productivity to do much more complex or difficult tasks or tasks that need more of your focus.
That's right. You remember Stephen Covey's quadrant of urgent, important, not urgent, but important.
Yes.
Yeah, that quadrant.
Urgent, important metrics.
Yes. So when you know yourself, now it's back to that self-awareness and self-leadership. When you know yourself, you're able then to design your schedule for highest impact, for highest productivity.
The other, that you're speaking also to the point here that speaks to the knowing your energy levels at a particular time of the day. Which there brings time now here in terms of time of the day at which you are at your best, because you know that at that, like you were saying, in the morning, your energy level is very high. That will be your time when you actually maximize the energy levels that you have at that time.
Right.
So that's another aspect of time, which suggests if you are at liberty to schedule your tasks, then you better be conscious enough and knowledgeable enough about self that you choose to do those things at the time when you are at your best.
Absolutely. But I can also add, Sam, that even when you don't have much discretion in terms of usage of time, you're employed here and we have certain rules, etc., you can still within that create your own flow chart that will then create the tasks that require much thinking will go into the space where you have your much creativity, your energy is high, and you can still have a little bit of room. Obviously, as coaches, because we run our own business, we have more leeway, shall we say, to be that to plan our day, as opposed to the guy who is a bit more constrained. But as I say, within that, you can still do that as well.
Mm. Can we help to carry to take our listeners along? Can we talk about these various contexts? Because Ndadira Mutla came from the context of running a project or an event, where now you are given a certain 3 hours within which to feed all the activities, as you were saying, George. Is about managing the activities and make sure that everybody is catered for and nobody is actually left out. So that's that context. And then Divesh came from the context of running a show. So you're given 1 hour within which to run a show. So there is also another context. And then you spoke from the context of knowing the times of the day at which you are at your best, George. And that is the time that you are going to prioritize in terms of, instead of wasting that time by reading emails, you'll do something a little bit more of high value and more complex that demands too much of your energy and focus. And then you can read the emails at the time when you don't really need to expend too much energy. That's a third context. But it does look like there are many more contexts in terms of how do you recover, how do you regain, how do you strategize, like they're using a concept of time batching, that like doing similar tasks at the same time so that you are not being stretched in terms of the capability. That is also time management, because he said, okay, I'm going to take all these tasks, group them in this 1 hour and get them out of the way in this 1 hour. Because they are similar activities, it's almost be like I'm doing a routine. And yet you made them look like the routine. They are not necessarily routine. You took them from a big lump of activities. You selected those few and say, these ones, I'm doing them together at this time. And then they look like they are very easy, but actually it's a tactic that you have used. So what are the other contexts that we can bring in so that we can cover as many of our listeners as possible? Because when you say time management, everybody think of something else. Maybe others think arriving in time at work. Others think about finishing things within a short period. Others think of not wasting time. Others think of prioritizing. Other people make things of taking breaks so that you don't get tired.
Okay.
What about African time? Just one of the.
That's an excuse. When you fail,
That's an excuse.
when you fail to comply with the expectations.
No, it's not an excuse. It's something else. Whether you can call it culturally, it's something else which you say. I'm going back to Ram Muta where he said I was organizing a funeral. And it often happens in a funeral where you can allocate me 5 minutes and I walk in there. And then after 5 minutes, said, you must step down. I said, you can be an MC, but this person who stayed here is my sister. What are you going to do? Let me talk.
Well, that's a complexity that the program director needs to manage, because they are again going to diverse things. As you are playing, you need to be aware of what you are dealing with. If you are going to
hence I want to bring another aspect of this, that in managing those times, you need to also manage the risks.
Well, that's why they will call Ndadira Pula, or hey, Ndadira Pula is a tactician in terms of managing difficult people who don't honor time. But he's not going to disrespect this elderly man from the village. Then he might rob from an understanding young somebody to give to the angle that wants to cover everything that there is to cover. That's time management, right?
No, I concur and agree with you. Hence, I'm saying sometimes you need to bring another dimension. That's why I started with African time, deliberately to say when you manage time, you need to also bring along managing of the risk. Because the risk can make you a very good time manager, and the risk can make you the worst time manager.
But can we start from the point of view of you being responsible for yourself, and then we can go into where you are now asked to manage time for others? Then we can bring the dynamics like the ones you touched on, Rapula.
So when Rapula managed time for himself, it's more like talking to the converted.
It's a behavior. No, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, look, well, you do get challenged, I guess. I mean, what happens when you decide to procrastinate is a failure in time management.
So I'll bring one example here in the same scenario. I think the beginning of October, we were managing a team in Pumalanga doing a facilitation on strategic planning and annual performance planning for the coming years. It's an SOE. And the SOE in that session had the board members. So what we normally do when we plan for the sessions, we have engagement with the executive 2 days a day before, so that when you start the session, the day of the sessions, we don't have to debate soft issues. So on a day, I was facilitating on day one. And then just because after greeting everybody and then asking the first speaker to go on the floor, the chairperson raised her hand, chairperson of the board. And after raising her hand, asked the question of saying, I see the agenda here. Who adopted the agenda? Now, the chairperson of the board is asking me, and in our conversation, we had a conversation, a CEO and a CFO. And I had to respond very diplomatically with such things, otherwise it's going to delay the starting of the process. And my diplomatic response to manage the time was to say, in terms of the process which we have been put in place, and it was never argued before, is to say this agenda was agreed with the management of this organization before we start today. If the management has not informed the board, I apologize. If the board wanted us to inform them first before we start, I apologize. But let's move on. I
Those are
manage
complexities.
So you manage the risk to make sure that you don't go back and start debating, but this item should not be there. Very interesting, the same day, in the afternoon, the shop steward comes in, but we never agreed on this agenda. Let's go to the agenda. It's another complexity kicks. So it's more to say that when you speak to your converted, so you need to manage the risk as they come, because they will come in a different format.
Yes. Cool. Will you be comfortable if we were to classify them as time wasters?
Yes.
It's a time waster.
But yes, but you need to manage them. Otherwise, if you don't.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think the effectiveness of time management also involves you being aware of things that can actually waste your time because they were not foreseen. And when they happen, then is the question. Time management also means how do you escape such time wasters? Especially in this case, it's quite a serious time waster because it might actually result in you being told to stop the whole thing.
Yeah.
Hence, I use the word of saying, rather using time wasters, I say you need to manage risk, because they come with a different form.
I think we have it somewhere down the line here. Things that could become time wasters. I mean, talkative colleagues in the office that never stop wanting to engage you and you want to focus on finishing in time.
Right.
As an example, sorry. But I think Divesh wanted to come in before we move away from the points you made, Rapula. Thank you for that. It's a reality, actually.
Thank you, Sam. I wanted to actually give a different perspective in terms of the point George had raised in terms of sometimes, you better perform, your best performances at night and not necessarily during the day. As much as we would try to say, okay, because we perform better at night, we adjust certain tasks towards the night. But unfortunately in life, sometimes, for example, if you have a work environment and you've got a day job, you can't be having better performance at night when you're working during the day. So
Yeah.
my perspective is that, and of course it's backed by science, uh, if you are having more prowess and you find yourself more productive at night, but you actually need that productivity during the day, there's definitely ways and means to actually move yourself from being a night person to being a day person, because you need that productivity at that appropriate time. And that is things like, you have a gradual shift in your time scheduling, your task alignments. You adjust the things like when you go to bed, when you wake up. You optimize your environment. One of the things your body is attains to, and it's in relation to the example I had raised when I did my opening. Um, your body adjusts to the amount of light it receives, and it regulates your circadian rhythm, which is the real measure, I think, in terms of time, your time on Earth, and of course all the tasks that you do with your time. You got to obviously have an inducive workplace environment, set up your morning routines. One of the things I came across is that as soon as you wake up, and a lot of people fall prey to this, they say they need their coffee or they need their tea, but it's actually bad that if you drink coffee or anything with caffeine within 30 minutes of having woke up from bed, you actually alter your natural rhythm that your body has. It generates cortisones that actually help you regulate your productivity level. And of course, managing your time, the different techniques you use, there's techniques like Pomodoro techniques, which tells you to break up your work chunks into say 30 minutes of focused work, and then you have your break in between. Healthy habits that you could use, mindfulness, relaxation methods. So there's a myriad of things I wanted to share with the audience that, again, I work better at night. That could be seen as a blessing, or it could also be an excuse. But
Mm.
life happens, and if you're given an opportunity to have a live digital online show which happens during the day and you're a night person, I'd really say, you got to adjust. You can't say, no, I don't want the show anymore because I'm a
Yeah.
night person. Thank you,
Let
sir.
me throw the spanner in the works. Divesh, have you heard about these fights in between the show hosts at various radio stations? And then you end up seeing somebody who was doing an afternoon show being scheduled for 3 o'clock in the morning show. And when you ask them, they say that the fight was on because other people prefer certain times of the day. But the good thing, the reason why you have those fights is because there are options, right?
Indeed.
If there were no options, that fight would not even happen.
Yes, you'll be at your best
So
behavior.
now, somebody like George and myself, because we are self-employed coaches and we coach across the world, sometimes we wake up at 3 o'clock, you coach somebody who's sitting somewhere in the Americas or in the Asias. Because we know that we have that leeway, that's why we will even entertain an option of being a night owl or early morning bird. I think the starting point, and this is actually, let's take this back to the real work situation, 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I think that's where many managers and companies find it very difficult because they want people to be in the office from 8 to 4:30. And now there's the people who are at the highest level of work, they don't only work between those hours. They do certain things outside those 8 hours to get ready for those 8 hours. And then they're trying to be awake between 8 and 4:30 because they have to, but they are not necessarily at their best. And that's why when you get to the level of self-directed, that's where your time management become even more difficult because you have options. But if you are stuck within a working hours, you are also at the dilemma of the working hours of the company. And I think uh, 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 time management happens in a particular context. And that context must be described first for yourself, by the way, not necessarily to wait for somebody to define it for you. So I think and I think as Franz was started by saying, let me use a context of organizing a funeral. That person who allows 30-something people to talk in 3 hours, you probably didn't have an option. You have to accommodate everybody. But the reality is that there are certain contexts you will not even be allowed to go as far as so many people being acceptable. So therefore, are we all agreeing that I think the starting point is your context? George?
Absolutely. Like I said, most people in the world don't have the luxury of what we have to be able to craft your day the way you want it. The majority of people that we coach around time management are people who don't have who have constraints. But what we tell them is that the starting point would be to design an activity logbook, like I said at the start, an activity log tool. Literally, what you do is you look at your planned activities, the actual activities that you're going to do, the degree of difficulty, the start, the end, the time you spend, and the energy level that you have, and you make a comment there. You do it for 10 days or 12 days, you will see a pattern. Even if you start at 8 and finish at 4, you will see a pattern that when I'm doing this thing at 11, I'm more energized than when I'm doing it at 2 p.m. That is what you then use to craft your own program. Unless you're one of those who works on a bottling line and the bottles come at you and you have to sit there and put the corks, well, that's different. Yeah. If you are somebody with a bit of discretion and your manager leaves you to do the job, then it's good to find the best time to do certain activities. That's the coaching I'm talking about. So you don't necessarily
now let's hook onto what Divej was saying, because that is also absolutely right. What is the medical research saying? Because our bodies are very adaptable, but the medical science people will say it does not necessarily mean that this is how it's supposed to be. The world of work distracts so much of our natural phenomenon.
Okay, can I come in there, Sam? Because time management is about planning and exercising conscious control. And the part of your brain that deals with that is the PFC, right? Prefrontal cortex.
Yes.
But the function of the PFC is that it doesn't work at full throttle 24/7.
Yes.
It has a specific window within which it will give you its maximum performance and it's gone. And so knowing that's why this coaching comes in. You want to then hook the most, shall we say, the most difficult task at a time where your PFC is charging. And that's important because we shouldn't talk as if your brain operates exactly the same from 8 until 4. It doesn't. It has peaks. Yeah. And so your job is to find where the PFC is really going. What is it for you?
So this time management is more than actually we have looked at it simplistically.
Of course, Sam. It is much more than that. It's not like there's 8 hours here now, guys, split it up. It just actually doesn't work. It differs from person to person, the food you eat, etc., etc. This is why tracking your using your law and seeing how you perform over time, and then using that as direction towards creating your schedule is important.
Yeah. But it looks like there is time management from technique point of view and philosophy point of view, but there's time management from a mechanical point of view. you have a clock watch, and things must done within a certain time period, because if we don't deliver these goods at this time at the client, we can't invoice. Talk to me about that.
That's what I'm saying. If you work on a bottling line, this thing is not going to slow down and say, now you're
we
filling.
pay you according to the number of hours you spend on packaging these things. Dinesh, you wanted to come in there?
Yes, thank you, Sam. I do agree with George. In majority of situations, we do align ourselves. Even if you're independent, working on your own, you still align yourself to performance either during the day, afternoon, or evening. But what I was leaning towards earlier is that that can still be adjusted if you need to. I mean, even yourself, Sam, if you know there's certain task that's due tomorrow morning, you'll work through the night. Or
Yes.
if it's due later on in the afternoon, the next day, you'd rather rest in the night and get yourself in full productivity. So when you do show up, you give your best. And the aspect of the PFC as well that George was alluding to, even that you still can optimize your productivity and make sure that your peak aligns with the task and the times that it's needed. Unfortunately, even yourself, George, if they're saying that we need to see you in the afternoon, you got to be there in the afternoon at your peak. You can't say to them, let's shift it to the evening because I'll give you better service then. Your circadian rhythm, that your body's timepiece, which is always clicking, and sometimes even you can wake up 1 minute before your alarm rings,
Yes.
and you'll wake up to just check what the time is, and you say it's 1 minute left, but your body already is running on its own alarm system, that it actually knows what time it is even before you look at the clock. So there is mechanisms to actually optimize how your body is operating and to re-energize it.
I guess the other aspect of time management, therefore, is also, don't just be happy to have ticked the box, but look at whether there is quality out of what you have completed. And that's where also then we need to be also knowing that you can be tactical in terms of what you do, how you do things. And that's why the concept of batching, for instance, and also the concept of STEAM, where you say, you defy the concept of multitasking and say, no, I select one particular thing because I'm now interested in the quality. There's no way I'm going to produce good quality if I'm trying to do three things at the same time. So therefore, what is value for you is not the finishing of the assignment, but it's the quality that you are tracking. And therefore, it's important as when you do it, and then at what time you do it, and how you're going to try to spread yourself. Because I do feel that I think we are not disagree. I think all these points we are raising seem to be finding their place in this thing called time management. It's about what is the objective, therefore, in mastery of time management, and what are the outcomes you are wanting to achieve. If you want to make sure that the three people at the funeral have spoken, and if they've all spoken, whether they spoke quality or not, as long as they've spoken, and that is a measure, and everybody is happy to have featured on the platform, that's okay. But what if after that, and then people say, but I could have just given us 5 people to sum up this whole thing. They wasted our time. Everybody was just talking the same thing after another. But you don't get to evaluate that at the funeral. At the funeral, what people value is, as long as you showed up, then it is valid. But can that be the case in a manufacturing plant where you are packing the sweets? Some of the sweets are half packed and others are full packed, and then they get returned from the client.
I was going to just support you on this issue about quality of work. So me and Davis are not disagreeing. If the meeting is at 3 and the guys want you to show up at 3, you show up at 3 and you do the best you can. What I'm talking about and what you are talking about is when you want to produce the highest quality, then you must do it when you have enhanced focus. And this is the point. This is knowing when you are at your peak. But of course, life doesn't give you the luxury to do everything at your peak.
Mm.
But knowing it is important.
Being conscious and be aware that there are many distractions that you can manage if you want to produce quality within a given time. And that is what is interesting is that is not the responsibility of your manager or anybody else but yourself.
It's self-leadership.
Mm.
It is self-leadership. Because it's one thing producing goods and quite another producing a masterpiece.
Mm.
But life doesn't allow you to be masterpiecing every day. It doesn't. It gives you an opportunity to do the average sometimes and the best at some other times.
So now, how George, how do you then? And if I may want us to move us a little bit, how can you organize your workspace for it to be in such a way that you meet your deadlines, but not only meet your deadlines, you have no distractions, you produce quality and the productive level that is very high and the performances that is satisfactory. And then you say, because I applied my knowledge and insights into time management, I've managed to produce good quality within the given time. Therefore, I'm very good at time management.
Yeah. Davis mentioned the Pomodoro tool, right? Being able to say, I'll work 30 minutes, take a 5-minute break, work what? It's tools like that. And Davis is the IT person here. Using the AIs of this world to manage. Those things are important. Now you're looking for tools to enhance your ability to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a talk of Divesh, there's a talk here of the productivity journal, which is but nothing else than a notebook where you list your things and do things according to prioritization. And those who are left over, you move to the following day, and then you eat them first the following day. Divesh?
Yes, just before we talk technology, Sam, and for me, when we talk time management in this day and age, it's largely technology driven. But before we get there, one of the most important aspects is your workspace that you are working in. It has to be a productive workspace in the sense that you need good lighting. It must be free from distractions. You don't put your desk facing a window and you've got cars that's traveling outside of the road, which can easily distract you. It has to be very comfortable and it must be well organized. That is the basis from you to start having a very productive day. That workspace must be nice and colorful if you like colors, or it must be gray if you like more subtle tones. But in terms of digital, in terms of technology, yes, you've got AI tools these days which can even help you manage your time to a point where it's doing all the planning for you. It will, let's say it's a new task, or even a task such as that which France introduced to our listeners tonight. The AI can look at other resources on the internet to see what is the best case, what is the best amount of time for a specific task, and formulate a schedule for you, putting the times in there, which you can then look at and say, okay, this will work for me, this won't work for me, adjust it to meet your own specifications. The AI these days can be your personal assistant, which it manages your diary and slots in tasks into your diary for you, so that when there's a task that's due, it will remind you. So it helps you to manage your time instead of just having your traditional clock, which still needs you to look at it. There's lots of time management tools, even on the platform side. When we're doing our shows, there's a time running there. There's a little reminder which tells you whether you're on target, whether you're behind schedule, to catch up. So there's a lot of digital tools these days which helps you in a large sense.
But do we all agree, Divesh, that before we go there, This thing is about behaviors and mindsets and consciousness and awareness and intent. Because the tools can be there, but if your behavior and attitude is such that you don't value and appreciate the importance of managing time,
100%.
then how will you then adopt a tool? I mean, that is where now even these technologies we're talking about, if your attitude is such that you don't respect time, you don't appreciate the value of time, you are not disciplined not to procrastinate. If you procrastinate and you start, instead of starting 5 days ago, you start when you are left with 1 day, no amount of technology will help you.
Indeed,
You're
sir.
right there, Sam. You're right.
Right?
My fault, I guess, is that my premise for our discussion is that we are striving to be high performance individuals.
Indeed.
So that is why I say no. If we predominantly work at night, we can't have an excuse. We must be able to have the skills and tool sets.
But
to
that
be
is
able
for
to
that,
adjust.
that is for that reason that within the themes here, one important theme is tackling procrastination. Why is procrastination such an enemy of productivity? Why people procrastinate? And there are valid reasons why people procrastinate.
Sam, can I be allowed to have my rant around
Yeah, please do.
Around this thing about time consciousness?
Yes.
Because just yesterday I was trying to explain this to some people. You see, when I make an appointment with Sam to meet at 2 p.m.,
yeah,
Sam expects me to meet him at 2 p.m. But here's the kicker. I have someone who will see me at 3:15 because my meeting with Sam ends at 3, 2 to 3. That person has got an appointment to drive someone to the airport, someone who's got to pick up a plane to fly. So if I mess up the time with Sam, then everyone else in the ecosystem in my schedule suffers as a result of one person's inability to respect time. And so I see respecting time not just as George respecting time, but it's respecting the other person and his entire ecosystem. Because there are people behind who depend on this guy meeting his time. So when I disrespect that, I'm disrespecting everyone down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so most people will say, oh, I'm just late by 15 minutes. Does it really matter? No, it does actually, because it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about everyone else involved because you have committed to a time. So if you commit to 2 o'clock, then let it be 2 o'clock. Don't commit to 2 o'clock and show up at 4 and say, it doesn't matter, I was in traffic. No. When it's 2, it's 2.
Yeah. And if you do that repeatedly, it becomes your behavior and your way of being, and you harvest value in that.
Yeah, that's your brand. That becomes this. Rabul was saying, it's African time, but it's unacceptable. because everyone else depends on you keeping your word. So if you say 2, show up at 2. If you can't, phone the guy. I won't make it. Let's reschedule. So that he doesn't affect other people in the ecosystem. I see it as selfishness, actually. Yeah. It's totally selfish. It's all about
your item to the back.
Rabula? Do you know, Sam? Yes, I'm asking myself a question of saying, prior to having watches on cell phone, how did you manage time?
Prior to?
Prior to cell phones and or phones and watches, how did we manage time?
Well,
we didn't have activity. We didn't have activities that required a consciousness of time, because it's about activities. It's not about the time. You are managing.
No, there were activities. So activities like elders will move in the morning, go and pay lobola somewhere else. But they were on time.
As long as it happens within daylight, it happens within daylight was the time
But
within which
No,
was happening.
the
no,
world of
before daylight.
optimism takes, bruh.
No, before daylight. Why I'm raising that is to say, while we do have this commercialization of time, some areas there's a commercialization, but there's not necessarily need to be a commercialization around that. It's more to say that what is your attitude when that happened? Is it happened because it had to happen, or it's happened because it was man-made? That's when you managed it to officially.
It's a very interesting point, but what happens at the United Nations, Rapula? Everybody stick to the same time. That everybody adjusted to that. I think we influence each other over time, and then we develop new ways of doing things. I remember when we were going to school in the rural areas, time. Not everybody had time, but we had a schedule. You know that in summer, if the schedule is at this point, that is that time, it's around 7 o'clock. But and then you were spot on because others had time, others had schedules. So I'm sure there was a measurement of some sort. And then they will say, Kama dana meaning midday, or Kama asa meaning early morning, evening. So they were using broad time frame of time, not exact in terms of the
I
clock.
I co- I, I concur, Sam. What I'm raising is while we're managing time, we need to be conscious of the say there's a commercial time and non-commercial time. Both of them are time, but they need to manage differently.
It's culture. It depends on culture. I mean, in Raskukune, we always say around 10 o'clock, the bride and the bridegroom will enter the tent, but normally it can happen at 12, and we're still okay with that. But it's only in Raskukune, I guess. And other people are already very much clock based in terms of how they manage their weddings and things. I think it's a we are at different stages of how things are done and what is tolerable and what is not tolerable. I mean, I've had situations where even there, as Kukunu, you invite people from other countries and you have given them a program printed and said 10 o'clock will be, 12 o'clock will be eating lunch. And then 3 o'clock, people have not eaten. And you hear people asking, honey, what's going on? What else this are scheduled about? I know we are digressing a little bit, but I think it just shows that time is a unifier, according to me, in today's life, even in the rural areas where they still use African time. I don't know. Let me allow other people to reflect. I know why you are asking this. You are playing a devil's advocate, Rapula, right? Rapula? Okay, we lost Rapula.
I think as well,
Yes?
to that point, Sam,
I,
it's interesting to me that the same individuals might, you say something starts at 10, they show up at 12, right? But if you said that we are dishing out money, we're giving out the grants at 10, then the people show up at 6 o'clock.
So you see, it's strategically.
So I agree with George's point to say that end of the day it's about perception. It also depends on what the aspect is that's relating to the time. In the aspect of food, if you say we're serving lunch at 12, people will be there by 11.
Yeah.
But if you say the bride and groom is starting at 10, they'll decide, okay, we'll show up at 11 because
So can you say that way it's a discipline and it's a choice?
I use the word of saying commercialized and non-commercialized. So there's the Sasa guys. Sasa guys said 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock radio man, they got at 6. The non-Sasa guys said the wedding started at 10, they'll go at 12.
But do we agree that this is a cause of misery in where you're working in teams, when people really don't have a concept of time and respect? Actually, people then can even actually brand you to be the person that doesn't respect other people when it comes to time, as George has put it. And therefore, it's part of that self-leadership, George. Dadra Muta as well, please, you have been quite a while for a while. Maybe you wanted to come in.
I think he's missing one of them.
Hey?
Ram Muta is not here.
I'm
Oh,
here.
okay, yeah.
I'm
Oh,
here.
okay.
It's just
Carry on, carry on. Mm.
yes. Actually, I had listened that time management is also dealing with self-awareness, and I linked up with the fact that you must understand your productivity level. Nowadays, when I have an unfinished problem, when I sleep, 2 o'clock I wake up, and when I wake up, I start by noting the answers that I've been having, and if they are linked with time, I start scheduling and I prioritize.
Yeah.
But I was fascinated by the fact that no one can say he owns time. Time is 24 hours, and it's up to how you are going to use your time. You can't claim that you don't have time.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much.
So if you say you don't have time to meet me, France, it means I'm not important in your vocabulary. You haven't
Yes.
prioritized me. It doesn't mean that I'm not coming top on your list of priorities.
Yes.
So it's not true that when people say they don't have time, they just say, no, I have time, but not for you, George.
Well, that is the reality. It doesn't sound very nice, but that is the truth.
Yeah.
See, what we give time to is those things that are most important to us at any given stage in life. Today it might be important, next week it might not be. And so it depends on the priorities. And that's why prioritization is very important. And being open, I think, is more important, I think. So if for instance, on the list, this guy is number 7 and I can't see him this week, but say it. Hey, my brother, I can't see you this week. I can see you in 3 weeks because my priorities this week are so and so and so and so. Being open, I think being open is one of the greatest gifts you can have. Tell people the truth and move.
Yeah, it's a very controversial thing, this thing called time. But if you are part of a team and you belong to a department and you have been given tasks that are important for everybody else, and we are all depending on productivity level of all of us, we deliver tomorrow, you deliver next week, and you continue always delivering a week later, then time become issue. You might even be subjected to time management coaching, or you might even be disciplined for not complying with the expectations of your job.
And holding others back.
Yeah.
Because if your work is then to be used to feed into someone else's work, and his work is delayed because of you, then there's an issue.
Yeah, if you are failing because you are not coping, then we might put you for development. But if it's because you are just irresponsible and not disciplined, then you are not we are not able to be transformed. They say you don't fit for this job. This job is very time sensitive. We are delivering the type of products that the client depend on to build their own products, and you are not delivering in time.
Yep. Yeah, I know people. Yeah, I was going to say, I know people will say, when you got everything scheduled and it reduces stress. And we had a debate. Someone says, no, actually it stresses you because you're up forever scheduling things. Well, that comes down to the personality as well, really. But I always think having clarity is very important. 6 o'clock, this will happen. 10, that will happen. It may not happen all the time as scheduled, But that creates so much clarity and it helps you move forward.
So let's close up by bringing it into the context of the digital online streaming master issue. What could go wrong with poor time management when it comes to the industry of streaming or broadcasting, and how can we avoid that happening?
Well, so if David and George's show is scheduled for 6 p.m., this week we are on schedule at 6. Next week we are 6:30. Next week we then we lose, our brand goes crazy. If we are 6 and we kick off at 6 as scheduled, well, sure, barring technical issues. But if we are always on time every time, that means people are have got certainty about our program. At 6 they are there, and then they go out.
So the DJs that wakes us up 6 o'clock in the morning every day at these famous radio stations, what time do you think they are in the studio in the morning?
Wow, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Because they got to prepare.
By 6 o'clock they want to be ready, right?
Right.
So what are they doing? They're managing time and they are planning, as Ramuta was saying, to deliver in time, good quality show. That's time management, proactiveness, planning in advance, and be ready when the time comes. Top of the clock, you start.
Yeah, and people know that. So it's literally you can put your money on it. 6 they're there, you know. And if for some reason they don't, you are not in a hurry to blame them. You try and, so if they explain, it's easy for people to say, of course, they're always on time. This time this thing happened.
Have you ever seen a baker waking up? But you have seen the baker being ready with the bread at 7 o'clock. You want fresh bread. I'm told this is one industry that doesn't play. If you want fresh bread for your clients at 7 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you are busy baking.
I was told they put it in a slow cooker all the whole night.
So all our jobs require a certain element of planning. You cannot wake up at a time when you are expected to deliver and hope a miracle to happen. So if you don't have a discipline to wake up in time to do all what needs to be done prior to delivering, you are not going to survive in any job. It's the same, George. If you rock up at coaching and you haven't spent a couple of hours before planning for that session, what happens?
Absolutely. That's another one. So in coaching, you've set a meeting for 11 a.m. and the coach rocks up at 11:15 or 11:30. That client won't be your client in pretty soon.
Yeah.
Also, there's just no way he's going to hang around you because you have displayed one thing. I can trust you. But if our meeting is at 11 and I'm sitting ready at 11, he has confidence in you. But I have prepared. I've taken 2 hours before that to create a schedule of how this meeting was going to go, etc., etc.
Yeah. So, Divesh, something that and I guess the listeners here can relate to this because every week we are having this. Something that we might not be telling people who want to enter this space is the amount of work we go through to be at this point where we are now talking. Maybe we need to touch on that because we might be misleading people out there thinking that it doesn't require the amount of effort and time and discipline and dedication that we put.
No, indeed, Sam. We've iterated it in several of our other modules of what goes into the kind of work that we produce. There's lots of planning involved at various elements, various sections in terms of the road towards delivering a successful online show. And in line with tonight's topic of time management, you cannot do planning without good time management. If you do that, you're just heading for challenges, and you're often going to be ineffective in terms of being able to deliver what you were wanting to do. And hopefully we're resonating that point to our listeners, that as much as each module that we share with the listeners in this digital online streaming mastery program, the element of time management cuts across all of those modules to be able to deliver the end product at the quality that we do deliver in terms of Kumetsa Radio.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this speaks to the intro that Ramudla gave us, which sounded like he was broadening the topic, but he actually gave us a very nice baseline that you don't just wake up and then you are time managing. There's a lot of other aspects that are actually requiring this time management that we're talking about. And a lot of the things are the things behind the scenes that people don't get to see. And those are the things that really require your discipline, because otherwise you're going to be embarrassed. You can show up when you're supposed to deliver. That actually there are certain things they may not know what those things are that you have not done. But one thing for sure they will know is that you are not at your best. You are rattled. You are not flowing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what preparation does for you. It's not that everything that you read and prepare you use to present, but it just gives you the confidence to be able to tackle the subject widely.
Yeah. Indeed. And I think that's where it's the same as teaching. I mean, sometimes we take it for granted that teaching is very simple. Teachers don't just rock up in the class and then they are starting to present, unless they've been teaching this subject forever. Even then, you still have to refer, because your teaching and your delivery mechanism model is informed by where your learners are. You can't deliver at a higher level to where your learners are. Therefore, knowing where your learners are is planning. Teaching at the right level is planning.
As we have been engaging, it is very clear that time management is a dynamic process. Here, we still given a highlight around time. They say it's the progression of events from the past into the future. So if we take it to our online program now, I learned that we are currently developing modules that we are going to use in future. And for us developing these modules, we are using time. And we manage in that time. We're meeting from 7 to 8:30 every day. And I'm told time moves only in one direction. It's possible to move forward in time, but not backward. And scientists believe memory formation is the basis for human perception of time. Yeah. I thought I should bring this as my checkout.
Is that your checkout, Datramut?
Sorry?
Is that your checkout?
Yes, I said I thought I must bring this as my checkout.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
George, you want to check out?
Yeah. So, as I said at the start, our units are interlinked, and therefore you will see same theme running through all of them. But each is very important in its own way. And certainly today's discussion around time management is huge. If anyone listening is working at building a brand where you will be respected and held in high esteem, one of the cornerstones is going to be your observance of time. If you show up as it when you feel like, etc., your brand will suffer.
Yeah.
Do the best you can to ensure if you give your time, you are there on time. Yeah, the quality follows. But you can have the best quality and rock up 2 hours later. No one is going to
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Prepare and show up in time.
yeah. Prepare and show up in time.
Mm. Mm. The rest will happen because you are there, fully present.
Yes, and you haven't antagonized your prospective clients. They're willing to listen to you wholehearted.
Actually, they feel respected.
Yeah, feel respected. There's nothing more irritating for a prospective client to feel disrespected by someone looking for business from them.
Yeah. That's why I agree with you, George, earlier on when you're saying that time management and honoring time, it's not about you, it's about the other people that are involved. Beautiful. Thank you so much, George. Indeed, it's a very, very important topic that can build or destroy your brand and your own personal reputation if not taken care of. It happens once, twice, third time, they just remove you from the list.
Oh yeah, you're gone.
Yeah. Rabula?
George took my way to saying respect your audience.
Yeah.
Respect people who are going to speak to. Respect whoever who's surrounding you. Don't follow them if they don't respect her. Let them follow you because you respect her.
They will always remember you for keeping time.
Yes, they will.
Yes, thank you, Sam, for the show tonight. Likewise, with other modules that we've dealt with in this series, there is value proposition. There's a lesson to be learned for our audience in application for where they see it best fitting in their lives. Time management is indeed a powerful tool that can help one make the most of each day, ensuring that you focus on what truly matters and achieve a balanced, fulfilling life in general. So, not necessarily only for the online digital streaming environment. And I'd like to close my contribution tonight to say that time management is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters the most. Thank you, sir.
Beautiful. Indeed, because if you are able to choose what is the most important and you do it within time and you do it effectively, it doesn't matter how many more other things you left out. But the fact is you have done what is most important and you have done it to the absolute quality and within expected time. You have managed time, which is a limited resource, effectively. And therefore, that means your consciousness is helping you. Your respect for time is actually help you to deliver accordingly. My closing remarks is the list of benefits that are associated with good time management. One is the improved quality of work. So if you do things in time, you prioritize, you will produce quality work. And then, of course, if you keep on doing things in time, you gain confidence. So it's greater confidence. Thirdly, reduce stress, because if you plan and you do things in time, you're not rattled, and therefore the stress level is contained. It's not high. Increased career prospects. I think a lot of people, when you show good time management, very much value that because of the very high level of importance of time. And then, of course, it's also a sign of a good character. And then, of course, it makes you a very good team collaborator, because you never become a reason why people feel disorganized because of you not arriving in time. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I think that was a nice build-up on the other week's module on self-leadership and being in control. So we are proceeding to unit number 39 and conduct 34 in the coming week, and that is titled Critical Thinking in Sourcing Topics. So I think this is quite very interesting. What that topic suggests is that it's not enough to just choose a topic, but you need to be very critical about choosing that topic, and it has to have relevance to what you are faced with. Example could be, it's not enough to say we are going to talk about artificial intelligence, but what about artificial intelligence as an example? So that is going to be a discussion. So as somebody who hosts the shows and you provide insights for listeners, when you choose a topic, be a little bit critical in the thinking around it. That don't be simplistic about it and just say everybody talks about economic empowerment, therefore we are going to talk about economic empowerment. That leaves it hanging too much that it makes tiring for people to even listen to you talking about. So that's what we are going to look at. How do you come up with a topic that is very attractive, and how do you become critical about it so that it actually answers some concerns or pertinent issues that your listeners might be actually grappling with? That is the topic for unit number 39, contact number 34. Thank you so much to my colleagues, our resident anchors, George Mutenda Zamera, Franz Ramutla, Divesh Motila, Rapula Mudivani, and I can see Ompile has been listening on the public platform. And we look forward to join you next week. That was Commercial Radio Worldwide, the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle called the idea. We inform and entertain, we develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. I hope we did inform you, we entertained you. I hope you gained some development insights there, get educated, and you are empowered and you feel that our shows are supporting your journey. And of course, by being part of us, you are part of the bigger family of network of like-minded professionals. Thank you so much. Join us next week, Tuesday, same time, 1900 South Africa Standard Time, as we tackle unit number 39. Goodbye, and you take care.